Hello, beautiful people. I hope that you're doing well. I'm so happy to have you here, and I'm so happy to be here with you. Today, I want to share with you some personal insight and perspective that I have gained over the past few months while navigating my own journey. And honestly, I'm sharing this with you because this is something that I wish I would have had a few months ago when I was navigating these things because I had a lot of external noise coming at me, and I wanted some neutrality. I wanted some just neutral perspective and insight into how I could find all the answers that I was looking for within me. And I didn't want anyone to tell me what to do. I didn't want anyone to tell me what they thought I should do. But I wanted some assistance in understanding how I could find those answers within myself. And that's really what I'm going to share with you today is just some tips and perspective that I have picked up along the way in hopes that it may empower you, it may give you some perspective, some insight, some assistance on your personal journey. And as you may be able to tell by the title of this video, this is all going to revolve around how we can truly know if we are on the right path when others, those that we love, those that we admire, those that we look up to around us, are screaming at us saying, this is unsafe, this is the wrong path, you made a misstep, you are missing the point, you aren't seeing clearly. Whatever their voices may be saying, how do we truly know if what they're saying has some validity or if it's just external noise and there's a higher perspective, there's another answer that we can find within us? How do we know if we're on the right path or if those people may have some trueness to what they are saying? Really, where I want to start is clarifying that this can come up in different ways in our life. So sometimes we're on a path, we're walking this path, and others around us are telling us that we're on the wrong path. They're saying, this is a dangerous path, this is unsafe, you aren't seeing clearly, you need to exit this path, this timeline, and you're still on it and you're hearing all this noise. That's one perspective, or that's one way that this can show up in our lives. Another way that this can show up in our lives is if we are exiting a timeline and venturing into a new experience. And those around us are saying, you're making the wrong choice, you're making a misstep, you aren't seeing clearly, this is the wrong decision. Those are the two ways that it can show up. And if I'm being honest with you, I have experienced both within the past few months. So that's why it's really interesting to me. And I've done a lot of just introspection and kind of like reflection on this to say, I navigated that, but I wish I would have had this insight that I have now back then. And the good news is I do have it now. So moving forward, I'm more empowered. I'm more capable of navigating these experiences, these situations more effortlessly, a little bit more confidently maybe. And like I said, I hope that maybe these tips or these insights can empower you in some way. So when you're in either of those situations where you're on a path and those around you think it's the wrong path, or you're exiting a timeline or a path and those that you were on that path with are now saying, you're doing the wrong thing by exiting this, you're making a misstep, how do you know for sure? How do you know with clarity when you are on the right path? Where can we find those answers? And truly, if you want to get to the short and sweet answer, the answers are always within us, but that's also very vague and sometimes hard to understand. So I want to dive into how can we tune into the answers that lie within us and truly know when we are on the right path. And for me, it all starts with giving myself some space, some quiet, to step away from the noise, because when you're in the noise, when you're hearing all of these external voices, it can get really loud, it can get really chaotic, you can have a lot of stimuli coming at you, and it can be really hard to even hear your own voice and feel your own feelings. So I want to say that if you're going through this right now, if you're navigating some experiences or situations where there's a lot of external noise, there's a lot of people telling you what to do or what not to do, I urge you to give yourself the time and space to be in silence with you and only you. And when you do this, essentially the purpose, the intention behind giving yourself this space is so that you can feel into what is within you, so that you can move from your head, all of the noise, all of the stimuli that's being presented to you, down into your heart and feel what is coming up within you. What is it that your internal voice is saying? What is it that your soul is calling you to do versus your head trying to talk you into? And this can look like meditation. This can look like complete silence where you're maybe just have some time to yourself and you're just sitting with your hands on your heart. It can look like soft music with no words where you're by yourself and feeling, breathing into your body. It can even look like journaling with yourself if you're not quite to this space where you want to sit silently. For me, I find that journaling my thoughts out, tuning into myself on paper can be really helpful and give me a lot of clarity. You can even ask yourself, what does my heart say? And then journal that out. That's sometimes an easier way to clearly get the message of your heart versus just sitting there silently if you're not used to a silent meditation practice. But either way, what I want to make you aware of is when you enter this silent alone time, when you give yourself this space to tune inwards, you are going to hear, feel, and sense answers coming up within you. But it's not always going to be the answer that you were looking for or the answer that you necessarily wanted. And therefore, it's not always going to be easy to accept that as your inner knowing. It can feel really scary. And I am speaking from experience, and I send you all my love. I send you just the sweetest space. I hope that you can know and truly believe that you're not alone in this. It's not easy. And I don't know if it's really easy for anyone because we are human and we are still learning how to live in balance with our head and our heart, with our feelings and our thoughts. And when you're in this silence, when you're in this space with yourself, you're going to be presented with an inner knowing. And the way that your heart communicates to you and gives you the answers that you're looking for is very different than the way that your mind communicates with you and presents you with answers. Your mind takes you on a wild ride. Your mind takes into consideration all of this stimuli. It rationalizes it. It comes up with a story around it, and it presents it to you with a lot of information trying to back it up. Whereas your heart simply presents you with what it feels. Your heart presents you with what it feels is right, with what it feels inside, and it's not going to give you all this extra validation or reasoning for why it's right. It's just going to present it to you. And that's why it can feel more scary trusting our heart versus our head, because as humans, we're used to being convinced of things. We're used to being given all of this data, all of this noise, essentially, that convinces us why something is right or wrong. We haven't been really taught or given the space to learn how to hear our heart's guidance, which is much simpler, but much more foreign to us at this time. So I want to just kind of give you that little bit of forewarning that when your heart gives you an answer through what it feels, don't be surprised if it seems easier to brush that away versus what's in your head, because it's a more simple answer. It's a more simple expression than what is in your head. Your head takes up a lot of space when it's trying to convince you of something, whereas your heart is a soft whisper. So This is where it starts. It starts with tuning inwards, giving ourselves the space to feel what is within us. And as you're feeling into what is coming up in your heart, you can then also tune in to see if on this path, do I feel expansive? And what I mean by expansive is, do I feel uplifted? Do I feel excited? Do I feel a lot of space within my body? Or do I feel constricted? Do I feel very tense? Do I feel very um, tight and kind of like, you can think of it as clenching your fists. And when you're clenching your fists, you're not necessarily comfortable, you're on edge. Do you feel expansive or do you feel constricted in this current space that you're in? And when you can feel that for yourself, that's also your body giving you guidance. When we feel constricted, when we feel very tense, it's often not our highest timeline. It's often that something is a little bit off. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to leave that experience right away, but something is off where you aren't fully blooming, you aren't fully expressing and standing in who you are. That's what we are doing when we feel expansive. So tune inwards to see, what is my body language like? What is the energy within my body feeling like in this timeline? And that will give you some neutral guidance on, are you in the right timeline, or maybe something needs to shift to make this a higher timeline for you. Also, you can think of yourself in this timeline, and I again would do this with a journal and a pen. But when I tune inwards to see if I'm in the right place for me, I ask myself, am I growing or am I stagnating? If you are growing, then your soul is gaining a lot from this experience. If you are growing and learning and expanding, then this is more of an equal exchange. If you're stagnating and you're halting yourself, then you can think of it like a river. If a river is moving and flowing forward, it's a healthy river. If there's something blocking the river, there's all this pressure building up behind that blockage, and the river is not flowing as it's meant to. We are meant to continue flowing. We are meant to continue moving forward, expanding, and learning more about ourselves and the world around us. But if we are stagnating in whatever timeline we are in, or through whatever decision that we are making, then chances are that we're not living our highest timeline. It may be comfortable, and maybe that's why we are doing it. Maybe it feels really safe, it feels really familiar, and we didn't really realize that this also happened to be a place where we were stagnating because it felt so comfortable. But when you tune inwards to your body, you can sense and you can feel if you are moving forward, if you are growing, or if you are stagnating. And sometimes when we're growing, it doesn't feel comfortable, and that's okay. Growth also comes with growing pains. And so sometimes we are presented with things that are very new, they're very different, and we have to adapt and test out this new way of being, and it doesn't feel comfortable. It feels uncomfortable. It feels foreign to us. But when we are growing, we are automatically moving forward. We are automatically up-leveling ourselves, versus when we're stagnating, we're just staying at whatever place we are. And if we're honest with ourselves, do we ever really want to stagnate and just stay in one place for the rest of our lives? Or do we crave to experience and up-level ourselves so that we can continue seeing and experiencing what else the world has to offer, what else we are capable of? And so this is a journal prompt that you can give yourself. Am I growing? What does growth feel like to me? How is this experience allowing me to grow? When you ask yourself these questions, don't judge the answers that come out on your paper. Simply recognize them and allow them to flow through you so that you can receive the guidance from yourself. You're not asking yourself, should I stay in this timeline? Is it the right timeline? You're asking yourself a more open-ended question that allows you to truly feel what is right for you. And similar to when we tune into our hearts versus our heads, the answers that we receive may not be the answers that we were looking for. They may not be the answers that we anticipated. They may not be the answers that are easiest for us to move forward with. But this brings us to a very important point of trusting ourselves. It is a whole lot easier to trust the external guidance, perspective, wisdom of others, just like it's easier to follow directions more than it is to create the plan. It's a lot easier to look at someone else and say, what should I do? And put all of that power in their words versus trusting ourselves and being okay with the outcome. That's really what we are working with here. When we don't trust ourselves, it's because we're afraid of what might happen. We're afraid of what might happen if we trust ourselves and there's no one else to blame. There's no one else to point fingers at. When we trust ourselves, we own the whole experience. And really, as scary as it may feel, it's also very, very empowering. And this has been so huge in my journey lately. My biggest curriculum has been around trusting myself. And it's one of the scariest things that you can move through. But as you move through it and you get better at it, you also get exponentially more empowered and more confident in who you are and what you are capable of. But it takes practice and giving ourselves a little bit of courage, a little bit of compassion, because it's easy to beat ourselves up. It's easy to say, you don't know what you're doing. But when you trust yourself, you allow yourself to see what lies on the other side of that trust and faith. And it can be so extremely beautiful. So when it comes to trusting yourself, something else that I have found to be beneficial is to ask myself, what is the intention from which I am making my decision? What is the intention from which I am making my decision? And this takes honesty with yourself. It takes honesty to really tune in and see, what is the intention that I have behind this decision? Am I subconsciously trying to please someone? Because people pleasing is very common. And for some of us more than others, it kind of depends on our upbringing and our childhood and how we learned to earn praise. And for me, it came from making my parents proud. I wanted them to be proud of me. And subconsciously, this turned into people-pleasing tendencies. I knew that if someone was proud of me, they loved me. If I did something that those that I looked up to, whether they be teachers, whether they be mentors, whether they be parents, if I did something that they were really proud of, it earned me a higher spot at the table, basically. It earned me a lot of love. It earned me a lot of respect. And so many of us carry that forward into our adult years and don't necessarily realize that we're making our decisions from a place of trying to please others, trying to make others proud. But when you make your decisions from that place, you're trading your own confidence, your own inner knowing for the ability to please someone. It's a lot of times one or the other. If I have an internal knowing that says, I need to leave this timeline, but my head is like, do you know what that's going to cause? Do you know how many people are going to feel let down? Do you know how many people are going to feel disappointed? Do you know how many people are going to feel sad? They're going to feel upset. They're going to feel abandoned. Then I feel like, oh shit, my people pleaser takes over and wants me to overcompensate and make a decision from a, whether it be conscious or unconscious, intention to please those people. So I share all of this with you to say, when you are making a decision and when you're practicing trusting yourself, a really easy way to see if you are trusting yourself is to ask, what is the intention that I am making this decision with? And it takes honesty. And this is something that you can do, again, in a journal practice. You can do out loud verbally with yourself. But for me, when I journal it, it feels more safe. I know that only I am going to see this journal. I know that I can let whatever flows through me, and I can see it plainly in front of me, so I can't ignore it. And when I ask myself, what is the intention from which I am making this decision, I give myself my power back, because now I can see the full picture. I can see my wounded inner child who's afraid of letting people down, why she wants to make that decision. And I can then sit with her and I can visit with her and I can say, my sweet girl, by constantly trying to please these other people, you aren't getting the dream life that you think you are. You're losing yourself in the process. But the good news is, I'm here for you. I'm here to show you that things can be different, that we can have love, that we can experience love and appreciation from others while also being our own person, while also honoring our truth. And in doing that, we are going to rise to new levels that we've never seen before. And you can be really sweet with yourself and understand where those decisions may be coming from, but then give yourself your power back and choose to make a decision from a place that is really coming from the fullness of who you are versus giving away your power. And for me, this also melds into how I've been dreaming, because when you're trying to please someone, your dreams are automatically affected by that. Your dreams are automatically shrunk or reconformed to fit into whoever you're trying to please. And so for me, when I realized that I am dreaming based on what someone else has prompted me to dream, it felt sad, but it also felt like, wow, now that I understand this, now that I know this, I can rewrite that for myself. I can choose to dream for myself because I no longer want my dreams to be something that are told to me. I want my dreams to be so big and to come from a place within myself that when I reach them, I feel in every cell of my being the satisfaction of meeting them. Whereas when I'm dreaming from a place of what someone else has told me or prompted me to dream, it never feels fulfilling. There's no depth there because it's coming from a surface level word or thought or direction of someone else. So when I meet it, I'm not feeling that satisfaction. I'm not feeling that passion. I'm not feeling that depth because it didn't come from me. So as you get honest with yourself and you're understanding where your intentions are coming from, where your dreams are coming from, you're one step at a time giving yourself your power back. And that allows you to trust yourself because it's a relationship that you're forming with yourself. The more that you show yourself that I am here for me, I am going to go after the dreams that only I have, and you begin to actually take steps to do that, you see and you begin to understand that I can trust myself. I can trust myself because I am making steps forward to take care of me. When you're making decisions or you're dreaming for someone else, who is taking care of you in your soul's call? Only your soul, your individual, unique soul, can carry out and accomplish what it came here to do. But when you're clouded by these glasses or these lenses of someone else's dreams, someone else's desires, someone else's um, like intentions for you, then you're never going to accomplish your soul's personal, unique destiny because you aren't even in touch with it. And so all of this truly goes back to feeling within ourselves, getting out of our head and into our body, and feeling what lives within us, and remembering that our experience is unique to us. We are all on different paths. We all have different lenses through which we view life, and that doesn't make yours or someone else's right or wrong. This is something else that truly gave me a lot of it just truly gave me a lot of zest and a lot of reassurance that if I'm not necessarily right or wrong and the other person isn't necessarily right or wrong, then I can't hurt that other person through following my heart. When you follow your heart, when you follow what feels right, it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong just because the other person doesn't agree with it. And it also doesn't make their dreams, their intentions, their path right or wrong just because it isn't the same calling that your heart has. And when you realize this and you can truly honor each person in your life and yourself for who we are and our uniqueness, then you let go of all of this baggage, all of this heaviness that we've been carrying around, trying to fit in, trying to please others, trying to match our dreams with someone else's. Just because your dreams don't match doesn't mean that they're not powerful, doesn't mean that they're not valuable. In fact, they're even more powerful, they're even more valuable when you acknowledge them and when you fully see them for what they are instead of trying to twist them or shift them or shape them in a way that fits in with others. And so I hope that you can truly feel the potency of the message that I'm sharing with you right now, and that is you are unique, you are special, you hold all that you need within you. And only when you get caught in that loop of looking outside of yourself and putting all of your power in someone else's hands do you lose that vibrancy of who you are. And so no matter what path you're on, no matter what path you're exiting, no matter what path you're entering, all that truly matters is if you are following the internal guidance that you are specially coded with. Because no one else can come along and do that for you. No one else can come along and turn that on for you or give you permission to follow your internal guidance. Only you can do that. So maybe you're on that path currently where others are screaming at you that this experience is, or this path is unsafe, it's not right, it has a lot of risk and you should leave it right away. If you're on that path, this is where it gets so multidimensional. I hope that I can explain this clearly and you can follow me. You are viewing that path through the lens that your personal soul has. They are viewing you on that path through the lens that their personal soul has. So from their perspective, they're sharing with you that they see that this is not safe, that they see that this is wrong. That does not mean that it's wrong for you, but that also does not mean that their perspective is wrong for where they're at. So I'm going to try to explain that in another way. Let's say that I'm walking on this path and I'm feeling really expansive. I'm feeling like I'm growing a lot. I'm feeling like this is the best experience I've ever had. That can be 100% true. And someone from my outer circle can be looking at that and see a lot of reasons why this looks unsafe, a lot of reasons why this looks wrong, a lot of reasons why I should not be there. But they cannot see or feel the experience that I'm having within my individual being. They're not capable of feeling that. Only I can feel that. I feel the expansion. I feel the growth. I feel the excitement. They're not capable of feeling what I'm feeling because they're in their own individual expression, their own individual experience with their own individual lenses. And from that place, it truly looks unsafe for them. So, what I'm trying to show you or give you the perspective of is you can know within yourself that you are on the right path and have compassion for the people that are screaming at you, telling you that it's unsafe. You can have compassion for them and understand that from their lens, from their perspective, it looks unsafe. But you do not have to own their view. You do not have to comfort them through the life decisions that you are making. You don't owe that to them. You don't owe them any reassurance. You don't owe them anything to make them more comfortable, but you can still have compassion for them. And this is so big. So when I was moving through my experience of being on a path where others, family members, friends, peers, did not believe that I was on the right path, I kept going. I didn't leave that path just because other people were telling me that it wasn't right or that it was unsafe. I kept going. But I didn't argue with them about it. I didn't try to convince them why this path was right for me. I shared my truth. I spoke my truth, but I didn't share it from a place of trying to convince them. I stated it, I shared it, and if and when they tried to continue convincing me, I had a boundary in place. I put up my boundaries and said, no, I'm not going to subject myself to your fear. It's okay that you have your own fear. I have compassion for you. I honor you because you are on your own path. You don't have to say this all out loud to them, obviously, but you can know this in your being. And although I acknowledge you and honor you on your own path, I don't have to own that fear for myself. I don't have to subject myself to that fear. I don't have to comfort you through the life decisions that I am making for me. And this empowers you so much when you can take the higher perspective and acknowledge and know that everyone is on their own unique path. And just because from where they're at in their life, it looks scary, it does not mean that it's wrong for you. Only you can truly know that. When you tune into your body, when you tune into your heart, when you tune into your soul to feel what is right for you. So they may have had an experience in the past where they went through something similar and it didn't turn out well for them. They may have went through a traumatic experience where they were navigating something similar to what you're currently in, but in their reality, it didn't work out well or something happened. And so they're carrying that trauma and they're still trying to heal that, but they care about you or they see you going through this experience and they don't want you to experience the same hurt that they did. So they're trying to convince you to get off the path. But when we take into consideration and we're fully aware and conscious that we are two different beings having two different experiences, we can acknowledge that their trauma is their trauma. Their fear is their fear. It does not make it my own. And that will give you so much clarity as you're navigating your path if you can see it from that higher perspective. So basically, they're trying to protect you through their own conditioning. And they don't even realize or know that there could be a better option for you, that you could have a different experience than them. So we can't judge them for having these fears, for having these worries, but we also don't have to accept their fear or their worry as our own. And we can put up boundaries if necessary, if it continues, if they continue to share their perspective after we have told them our truth and we don't want to subject ourselves to that lower vibration projection of fear, then it may be necessary for you to make a more firm boundary to move on from that person, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that you're right and they're wrong. It doesn't mean that you're a good person and they're a bad person. It simply means that you're having different experiences, that you're navigating different timelines, you're using different lenses that only you have. So honor the process, honor every individual on their unique path. And that then brings me to how sometimes the universe is also showing us exactly what we need. So maybe you're feeling really triggered by these people that are telling you that you're wrong or telling you that you're making a misstep. You're feeling triggered by them because you've already reached the phase where you know what is right for you. You can feel what is right for you inside. And so you're feeling annoyed and triggered by these people who are telling you something that isn't true for you. Another way of looking at this and maybe just giving yourself some perspective is asking, are they sharing their voice? Are they sharing their noise with me to give me something that I can grow from? Let me explain that in another way. Sometimes in life, our guides, the universe, whatever name you want to call it, sends people into our reality to enact a part, to play a part in our lives that is going to assist us on our path. And of course, we don't consciously know this. We may just be viewing them as our mom or our friend or our boss, whatever. But they may be sharing their perspective with you to give you the opportunity to further grow and evolve yourself. So let me give you a personal example for me. I was navigating a situation where I needed to exit a timeline that I was on. I felt in my heart and in my gut that it was time to move into a new experience. This was not easy. I loved the people that I was going to be venturing away from. And when we had the conversation that had to end that current timeline, there were some things said that I felt very saddened by, and that a previous version of me would have wanted to fix, would have wanted to run back and say, wait, let me make this different. Let me do something that can make you see me in another way. I wanted to please them. A past version of myself wanted to please them, to please anyone that I looked up to, honestly. But in this version of myself, at where I am now in my growth, I could see that these people were giving me a golden opportunity through their words, through their perspective of believing that I was making a mistake. I was torn because I looked up to them immensely. I love them immensely. I trust them. And so I'm so used to agreeing with them, to seeing the same perspective that they have. So when they told me that they believed that I was making a mistake, that they believed that I wasn't seeing clearly, it hit me hard. And I thought, oh my gosh, am I wrong? Is my internal guidance wrong? Is my heart and the heart's call that I have wrong? And what I realized through navigating this was the universe was giving me a golden opportunity to learn and practice trusting myself. I needed someone that I loved and looked up to and admired so much to be the opposing voice, to be the opposite perspective. And that was the test for me. That was the curriculum that I was gifted. Are you going to put into practice trusting yourself and following your internal guidance, your intuition? Or are you going to run back to someone else's voice, someone else's perspective, someone else's guidance, and value that more than your own? So you can see how in this situation, those external voices were actually coming in to give me an experience that I needed. And so with that understanding, with that awareness, I have so much love, I have so much gratitude for these people that so lovingly took on the soul contract of being that voice in my life, that I was able to learn and practice and implement trusting myself through that difficult experience. And it was difficult because I love them, I admire them, I look up to them. And to walk away and to enter a new timeline where I'm choosing to trust myself more than them, it shows me just how important and how valuable my inner voice is. Because I could have lived my whole life trusting someone else's voice, trusting someone else's guidance more than my own. But when I follow my own intuition, when I follow my own guidance, and I eventually see where that leads me, I'm in a whole new realm. I've up-leveled myself so much by moving through that experience. So it really truly comes back to never picking sides, never telling yourself that either I'm right or they're right. There's no one right and one wrong. It's all an experience, it's all an opportunity, and it's all happening for you. So no matter how daunting or how frustrating or how upsetting those outside voices may feel to you right now, I just invite you to look at things from a higher perspective and give yourself the space to feel into what is right for you, and then acknowledge that everything is orchestrated for you to learn from and grow through. And when you give yourself the experience to walk your own path by following your own intuition, by following your own heart, by following your own internal guidance, you allow yourself to walk your own path. When you're following the voices of others, when you're following the guidance of others, you're walking someone else's path. They're lighting that path for you. But when you follow your internal guidance, when you follow your heart's truth, you're walking your own path. You're holding the light for yourself. And for me, what I've learned through this is that the beauty that I experience on my own path is always so much brighter, is always much deeper, more purposeful, more passionate than anyone else's path. Because when I'm aligned with my own path, I'm viewing my personal heaven on earth. When I'm walking someone else's path and ignoring mine, there's always going to be a disconnect. No matter how magical someone else's path is, no matter how beautiful someone else's path is, if we are not aligned with our own path, then what's the point? Then we're not doing what we came to earth to do, which is to walk our own unique path, to be our own unique expression, to shine our own unique light. And when you're aligned with your path, when you know who you are, when you feel in touch with your higher self, you can then be of service to other people in other paths. You can then co-collaborate on missions. But until you're aligned with your own path, you're never going to be fully capable of standing in your full power, in your full expression, because you're missing the most important connection of all, which lies within you. So no matter what timeline you're on right now, no matter what path you're walking, I ask you to turn inwards, to feel into what is happening, and to honor every single part of it, because everything is in divine and perfect alignment. Everything is happening for you, and you hold all the answers that you need. I love you guys so much, and if this video resonated with you, if you gained a piece of insight or there's something that's currently happening in your world that may be beneficial to tag on to what I had to say, I would love to hear about it in the comments. I love you guys all so much, and I hope to see you back here soon. Bye for now.